Try something with me for a moment. Close your eyes and think back to your first kiss, or your first day at a new school, or the worst meal you ever ate. I bet at least one of those just appeared in your mind in full color. The room, the smell, maybe even the exact words someone said to you. Now try to remember word number 47 from the vocabulary list you studied last Tuesday. Nothing comes, right? Or maybe something vague, a shape with no detail, gone almost as quickly as it appeared. Both of these are memories. Both went into the same brain. So why does one stay forever and the other disappears in days? The answer to that question is the entire reason some people remember English for life and others forget word after word, no matter how many times they review their notes. My name is Emma, and this is Train Your English Brain. I once had a student named Priya who told me something that stuck with me for years. She said, "Emma, I can remember the lyrics to a song I haven't heard in 10 years, every single word. But I studied the word reluctant 40 times last month, and I still can't remember what it means." At first, this sounds like a contradiction. How can her memory be both incredibly powerful and completely useless at the same time? It isn't a contradiction at all. It's actually one of the clearest demonstrations of how memory really works. Her memory wasn't weak. Her method was working against the way memory naturally functions. Here is what's actually happening inside your brain. Your brain doesn't store information the way a filing cabinet stores papers, sitting neatly in folders waiting to be pulled out. Your brain stores information in a web of connections. Every memory you have is linked to other memories, feelings, images, and sounds around it. The more connections a piece of information has, the easier it becomes to find again later. The fewer connections it has, the more likely it disappears. That song Priya remembered perfectly wasn't just words. It was connected to a specific summer, a specific friend, a specific feeling of being 17 years old. Every time she heard that song again over the years, those connections got stronger. The song was never sitting alone in her memory. It was tied to dozens of other things. The word reluctant, sitting alone on a list, surrounded by 39 other unrelated words, had almost no connections at all. It was a single fact, floating with nothing attached to it. No story, no feeling, no image. Nothing for her brain to grab onto later when it went looking for that word again. This is the real difference between information that disappears and memory that lasts forever: connection. Scientists who study memory have a name for this. They call it the elaboration effect. The idea is simple. The more deeply and personally you process a piece of information, the more likely your brain is to keep it permanently. Simply seeing a word is shallow processing. Connecting that word to your own life, your own feelings, your own specific memory is deep processing. And deep processing is what actually builds memories that last. This explains something that confuses a lot of English learners. Why can you remember random English phrases from movies you watched years ago, but not the vocabulary list you reviewed yesterday? The movie phrase arrived with emotion attached. Maybe you laughed. Maybe a character you loved said it during an important scene. That emotional context created dozens of connections instantly, without you even trying. The vocabulary list arrived with nothing attached at all, just a word and a translation, sitting in isolation, asking your brain to remember it for no particular reason. So, how do you use this knowledge to actually fix the way you study? The first thing is to attach every new word to something true about your own life. Don't just learn that reluctant means unwilling to do something. Build a sentence about an actual moment in your life. I felt reluctant to call my boss this morning. Now that word is connected to a real morning, a real feeling, a real situation you can picture. It's no longer floating alone. The second thing is to use your senses while you study, not just your eyes. When you learn a new word, say it out loud. Notice how your mouth moves. If possible, connect it to a smell, a sound, a physical feeling. Priya's song was so memorable partly because she experienced it through sound, through being with friends, through an entire summer of feeling. The more senses involved in learning something, the more connections your brain automatically builds, even without extra effort. The third thing is to learn words inside stories, not lists. A list gives your brain isolated facts with nothing around them. A story gives your brain a sequence of connected events, each one naturally leading to the next, each word supported by the words around it. This is exactly why you remember entire scenes from your favorite show, dialogue and all, without ever trying to memorize a single line. The story did the connecting for you. I want to come back to Priya for a moment. After we talked about this, she changed how she studied completely. Instead of lists, she started writing tiny stories using her new vocabulary, 3 or 4 sentences about something that actually happened to her that day. Instead of repeating words silently, she said them out loud and added a small gesture or feeling to each one. A month later, she told me, almost laughing, "Emma, I haven't forgotten a single word from my stories, not one." It wasn't because her brain suddenly became better at storing information. It was because she finally gave her brain something to connect each word to, the exact thing that was missing from the list before. I want you to try something tonight, something small but powerful. Pick 3 new words you learned this week. Instead of reviewing them on a list, write one sentence for each, but make it personal, not a textbook example, something true about you, something that actually happened, or something you actually feel. Say each sentence out loud. Notice the feeling behind it as you speak. 3 connected memories will always outlast 30 isolated facts, not because you're working harder, because you're finally working with your brain instead of against it. Your memory was never the problem. It was simply waiting for something worth holding on to. My name is Emma, and I will see you in the next episode.